Hi, everyone. It's me, Kaiser Brown, the host of the So I'm a Fan of Podcast, and I'm here before a workout to tell you about today's episode. Today, I am joined by a very special guest, someone who I've known for quite a long time. His name is Jared White, and we are going to discuss Batman. And it's a fun conversation. It's a fun episode. It's a great time. I hope you guys enjoy it. And if you're watching the video version of this episode, you may notice that Jared, his video freezes midway through the conversation. So when that happens, you'll see a picture of this. Yes, this is a picture I took of him smiling because I didn't have anything else to use. But I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you have fun. And I hope you learn a little bit more about Batman than you may have known before. Does that make sense? Anyways, enjoy the episode, have fun, and have a great day. Bye. Welcome to the I'm a Fan of Podcast, where people from different fandoms come together to share why they love what they love.
And sometimes hate what they hate.
I'm your host, Kaiser Brown, and I'm a fan of, I don't know, mostly X-Men and Wonder Woman, but Batman's a close third.
And I'm Jared, and I'm a fan of Batman. He's my number one.
He's your number one. What? Okay. Why is Batman your number one? Why'd you want to talk about Batman?
Oh, man. I just love Batman. Who doesn't love somebody who's dressed like Bat and beats the crap out of people?
Mm-hmm.
That just sounds like a dream job.
Really?
Which I probably should unpack because that's a little problematic.
Mm-hmm. Batman has problems, though. So I should ask you, what got you into Batman? When did you first discover Batman? Does anybody remember when did you really get into him? Let me ask you that.
Honestly, I don't think I could tell you a time when I wasn't into Batman. Legit. I remember being as young as 4 years old, running to the TV around like 1 o'clock every day. It was on TV Land. They would show Batman from the 1960s, starring Adam West, Burt Ward, Cesar Romero. Oh, that's the only names I can think of off the top of my head. And it's from the 1960s. And I remember as a little kid, I had this towel that my mom would have like in her drawer. And when it was coming on, I would run to her. I'd be like, pin it to my shirt, pin it to my shirt. And so she would take a safety pin and pin it to my shirt on both sides. And that was my cape. And I would go run and stand in front of the TV and watch the whole episode like that. And they were always like 2-parters. So I would literally stand there for an hour, not moving, not breathing. Me and my cape.
Batman the 60s show was crazy. It's so weird how different.
I loved it though.
Yeah, I loved Eartha Kitt for real though. Like how she was the best Catwoman, especially from out of because they had 3 different ones on that show. I think she was the best one to me, and I just love Catwoman anyway. Batman and Catwoman as a couple. I was so upset because they were supposed to get married a few years ago, right? They had this whole event in the comic books, Batman, Catwoman getting married, and then they ended up not getting married. That was a whole twist, right? And I knew in the back of my head, I'm like, they're probably gonna do that, but when they did it, I got so upset. I was so angry. I couldn't do it anymore. It was heartbreaking. But Batman to me, I'm trying to think about, I don't think anybody, I remember watching the animated series when it was, because it used to be on TV on like multiple channels. It used to be like on a WB, but it also was on Toon Disney at one point. It was on Toon Disney.
That. I was going to ask you, did you remember that?
Yeah. Yeah. It used to have that and Superman animated series on there. And they used to come on. I don't remember if it was on Toon Disney or used to come on Jetix or both, because Jetix was the nightly one. Toon Disney was the one.
I want to say it was both at one point.
I don't know, but I used to watch Batman the animated series, and I just used to watch that because that's all the shows. Batman, X-Men the animated series, they used to come on there, and then I used to watch that. Eventually, they took it off, and then they put it on like the Hub or something. And then that's when I saw like the New Adventures. That's when they had more of like Batgirl, and then they had Tim Drake Robin, and then Batman was more of a jerk.
Yeah.
In that show, I feel because I went back to watch some episodes of the animated series because I always go back to watch it every now and then. But Batman in the beginning of that show to where like the New Adventures came, he turned into a complete jerk. I was like, he's crazy. You always know that Batman's because first of all, he's in a bat suit. So let's get that out the way. This is a man dressed in a bat suit to beat criminals in alleyways at night. So this you already have to be a bit crazy. But then like how you treat like your adopted son and stuff like that, I still like them. You know what I mean? But it was weird. Who's your favorite Batman character outside of Batman in the Bat family?
Oh, wow. I think my favorite character outside of Batman probably would have to be Dick Grayson.
Mhm.
Like, it's just something about the OG Robin turning into Nightwing. I think his story arc has just always been really cool, especially
Mhm.
over the years, especially him having the whole relationship with Batgirl and then becoming Nightwing and going on and do his own thing, getting his own
Mhm.
city and like really becoming his own person, like being with the Teen Titans,
Mhm.
watching him flourish outside of that traumatic experience of being Robin under Batman.
Yeah.
I have to say him.
He's one of my favorites too. Him and of course Barbara Gordon. I love Barbara Gordon. So Nightwing, I feel like and Tim Drake too. See, we're gonna get into it when we get in our list, but I love characters that like choose to be heroes. And I feel like characters like
Yeah,
Batman and Superman, they didn't really like choose, they were thrust into those roles in a way. Of course, Bruce chose to be Batman, but things happened to him for him to have to be there. That's why my favorite
right.
superhero is Wonder Woman because she left her island as a choice and chose to go to man's world. Same thing with Barbara Gordon. She chose to be that's a spoiler, let me shut up. But she chose her role as Batgirl. And then Tim Drake did the same thing. He chose, unlike Jason Todd or Dick Grayson or Damian Wayne or whatever, none of them really chose to be Robin. They were kinda either born into those roles or thrust into those roles due to circumstances out of their control, but Barbara and Tim chose those roles to get into the family or whatever. But I like looking at modern Batman comics, they are very, a lot of characters, like, the Bat family is just a lot. Because first of all, first you had
It's a lot.
Robin and then Batgirl, then all of a sudden you had multiple Robins, then all of a sudden Catwoman
Right.
joined, then all of a sudden now Harley Quinn is in it, and I'm like,
Right,
"Okay."
yeah.
But I just find that interesting as a Batman fan, because he's the one I read, like, comics after X-Men, that's the comics that I read, like, the most, like, Batman and Wonder Woman are tied after X-Men because I read a lot of X-Men in my free time. We should get into our list. Okay, so I'm gonna let you go first, so you could get into your number 3, 'cause I did 5, but you did 3, that's okay. Look, I just
I think if I'm going, Imma do my list out of order. The
okay.
first thing I wanna touch on is Robert Pattinson's Batman in
Okay. Yep.
The Batman that came
The
out in
Batman.
2022.
Uh-huh. You know, that's my number 1, right?
I gotta start there. I didn't
Mhm.
know that.
It's my number
I
1,
did
so
not
we
know
gotta we gotta take it go ahead, you go
that.
ahead.
Man, that movie, it just touched me deeply. Like, it probably sounds crazy, but it just touched me so deeply because I feel like for a long time and don't get me wrong, I love the other versions of Batman. I
Mhm.
really do. But I feel like we haven't seen Batman really be a detective and, like,
Yeah.
have to figure stuff out and
Mhm.
solve crimes. And I think we've gotten into the trend of just, okay, we see Batman beat some people up, he fights the
Mhm.
Joker, that's it. We're not really seeing him figure stuff out. You know what I'm saying? And to
Mhm.
me, it just did something for me. My inner fangirl was really excited.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, "Oh my goodness, they're giving me everything I want and more."
Mhm.
And he still had, like, dope fight scenes, still had a cool Batmobile, still had plenty of gadgets, and I just like how young he was.
Yeah. He
Like, I
was
feel like that's what it would look like if I was to jump in a bat suit and go do that, which I wouldn't do.
Yeah, because in Batman, he was, like, 2 years into his career as Batman too, so he
Yeah,
was really young, and I feel like
right.
that movie is out of all the comic book movies that I've seen, the Batman is the one comic book movie that I this is what I wrote in my notes. It's the one comic book movie that actually feels like it jumped straight out of the page and actually just like the characters
Yeah,
came to life. 'Cause you have movies
yeah.
like everybody loves the Marvel movies like the Avengers and all that stuff, but it
Mhm.
still feels like the comic book side is just a bit far away from the
Yeah,
movie side, you know what I mean? But when you watch the Batman, it's like a Batman comic actually came to life. I'm reading a Batman comic.
literally.
The characters
It
are
was straight
are
off the page.
Right. Robert Pattinson is such a great he's the first Batman that I've seen outside of the animated continuities that was able to embody both Batman and Bruce Wayne and make them good. Because a lot of actors usually are just like a good Bruce Wayne or a good Batman. You know what I mean? Robert Pattinson was able to take both of those, and Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman came in. Ever since I saw the movie, because people were complaining how, why is she black or whatever? I'm like, there are several black Catwomen
Right.
before her, right? But she after I saw that movie, I said, every time I read Catwoman now, I just read her as like a black woman. And I'm just like, she's just a
Right.
light-skinned black woman. Because that's how they draw her anyway for the most part too. So it's just you put into the two and two together, those characters they actually brought to life. The Riddler too. He was different, but
Yeah.
like the mystery of that was just awesome. No, the chase scene. You know what chase scene I'm talking about in the Batmobile where he just kept going after them?
With chasing the penguin.
He was crazy. He was crazy.
I
He would
love
not stop. That he would not stop. He just kept going.
I was like, man, this is beautiful.
Mhm. What's your favorite part about the Batman movie?
Man. So the funny thing is not what people would think it is. It's not like the fighting and the car chase, and it wasn't even all of that. I have two favorite parts, right?
Okay.
So my favorite part is not even a scene particularly. It's just the overall cinematography of it
Mhm.
and how stunning it was visually. Like I think a lot of movies don't have that.
Mhm.
And especially like Marvel movies, which I love Marvel movies. I really do. But they lack in cinematography. They just
Yeah.
give you a lot of flat shots where there's a lot of stuff going on. And like the
Mhm.
movie is good. The plot makes up for how it looks. And
They're
so I feel
very
like with this movie,
yeah.
yeah, what?
No, I was saying they're very also like CGI heavy too. Like you can tell,
Yeah,
especially the recent
extremely. And
ones.
like I like the practicalness and like just the visual quality of the Batman. So to me, that was like breathtaking. I'm a sucker for good cinematography. And so then my next favorite part probably would be the scene where Selena and Kyle, I said Selena and
Hey.
Kyle, Lord, if Batman's name was Kyle, I'm watching the wrong version. Selena and Batman are on the rooftop
Yeah.
and it's like that golden time of day. And they're
Yeah.
looking at each other and she asks him, who are you under that mask? I think she calls him
Mhm.
Vengeance. And she was like, why do you wear the mask? Are you hideously scarred? Or I can't remember the other option it was. But I just love that scene because one,
Mhm.
their chemistry was on point. Zoe
Right.
and Robert Pattinson are so good.
Yeah.
But even more so than that, I feel like as beautiful as the words were, their eyes did so much more talking. And then I like how he has this dramatic pause. And then he was like, both. I wish I knew what the other line was so it would make it connected to me.
Yeah.
But I just know one was hideously scarred or something. And he says both. And it was like, man, you can see that like they really wanted to be with each other.
Yeah.
But I'm already devoted to beating up criminals all the time and doing what I
You
do.
feel
I'd rather go chase down a bank robber and beat the crap out of him in an alley than get
Yeah.
married and have some kids. But
Right.
yeah, those are probably my favorite two parts.
He probably needs some therapy is what he needs.
You need a lot of therapy.
That's the one thing he didn't do. He didn't go to therapy. He traveled all around the world to learn to fight crime,
Right.
all these fighting styles, and he didn't go get therapy. The one thing that he probably
He's crazy. If he had went to therapy, he probably wouldn't even have that, man. He'd be like, I'm good. Just let me
probably
up from my trauma.
probably not. Oh, but the Batman, the music in that movie really got me too. Just the soundtrack, just like the I can't remember. It's been like a year since I've seen the movie, but it's just I can hear the main theme in my head right now, just like
Yeah.
playing. And just like whenever the most dramatic moments came, I remember like the time when was it a church? I'm trying to remember. They were in a church or something. I forgot where it was, but they were, man, it was a building. I don't know if they were at a funeral or something. I can't remember.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm
It
talking
was a
about?
funeral. It was a church.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was a
Uh-huh.
church.
And when the music started playing in there and you're like, what's going on?
Hmm.
It's a really like artistic movie in general. It wasn't afraid to be
Yes.
artistic. I feel like DC
Right.
movies in general are a bit more artistic than other superhero movies.
Definitely.
Sometimes I think they give
By
them
a long time.
too much freedom sometimes, depending on the movie. But
Yeah.
but more so than Marvel movies or whatever, they really are artistic and they have fun with it, and it's just, like, really cool, and the
Yeah.
Batman really just it's that movie. I feel like everybody should watch that movie at least twice,
Definitely.
but
Yeah. Four or
but
five times if you're me.
yeah. I only saw 2, but, like, I was when I first saw that movie, I was telling people, "You've gotta go see this movie. This is the movie
Yeah.
you need to see. Like, this is the comic book movie." I feel like it really is that good. Another and they paid attention to details too. This is one detail that really stood out to me is when Robert Pattinson, whenever he was it's weird, but whenever he was in his Batman costume, it's a weird detail they put. It's not a weird detail, it was a cool detail. It's weird that I noticed it, I guess. Whenever he had on his Batman mask, he would have, like, the black makeup under his like, over his eyes, and then he'll just put the
Mhm.
mask on. Like, his
Yeah.
portrayal of Bruce Wayne was also interesting because it was different, right?
Was.
Like,
Yeah.
he was still, like, the rich kid or whatever, but he was less focusing on, like, his presentation as a person, whatever, as Bruce Wayne, and more so just worrying more about
Right.
Batman, right? That's what his life was, like,
Right.
really focused on. He wasn't, like he didn't like to have appearances, I should say, like, show. And that really was interesting. I wanna see, like, his evolution as, like, outside of just Batman, his evolution as Bruce Wayne, and see if he ever gets to, like, that more playboy persona or if it's just, like, it's
Yeah.
gonna drift the other way. It feels like that movie only came out last year, though, and it feels like it came out forever ago. I feel like
All right. I'm ready for the next one.
I'm ready for the
I'm,
next one.
I'm
The next one is not supposed to come I just looked, like, right before this podcast because I was writing notes, and it was like, "It's not coming out till 2025." And I was upset.
that everyone hates.
Right.
Hey, hey. Just why wait so long? Like, come on. What's the hold up?
I don't know.
I need the next part.
Mhm. I wonder if they're gonna introduce, like, Robin next part or whatever.
I was reading somewhere where they're like saying that it was a possibility.
Also, I thought it was cool because the show Titans, that show's okay. I watched all the
Yeah.
Titans.
I
But
watched that too.
the guy who plays Tim Drake on Titans played, like, one of the criminals in the
Yeah,
Batman.
bruh. I thought I was the only one who put that together. I was like, hey, that's Tim Drake.
Mhm, that's Tim Drake, and it was pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I like Titans a lot, I should say. That's all I'm gonna say. But anything else you wanna talk about with the Batman?
I think that was all I had on the Batman.
Mhm. The Batman's a really cool movie. I should put, I'm just gonna say my number 5. So my number 5 is actually the Arkham series of the Batman video games.
Okay.
That's my number 5 because I really like the Arkham series. I really think it's cool. I've played several of them. I didn't play all of them. I did not play Origins, but like the main trilogy, Asylum, Arkham City, and what Arkham Knight, if I'm
Yeah.
correct, those
Yeah,
games are like
I think that's right.
yeah, those games are like the superhero games. Those are the games that like really inspire like modern superhero video games. The story in those games are great. The combat in those games are great. If you play like Batman, like the Arkham games, you see where like video games like Spider-Man, like the PS4 Spider-Man, if you ever played
Right.
that, or the newer one that's coming out for PS5, like where they like get their influences from. That game is so influential within the superhero video game landscape. That's when superhero video games you had some superhero video games that were, like, pretty good, but that's when superhero video games, like, really started to become, like, AAA titles within the video game industry,
Yeah.
and just seeing those games my favorite out of them. Have you how many of the Arkham games have you played? If you played any?
Um, I know that I played Asylum for sure. I played that a lot.
Mhm,
I definitely played Origins a good bit,
mhm.
and I played a little bit of Arkham Knight, and then I fell off.
So, you never played Arkham City?
I don't think I ever did. Yeah, that's the one I'm not really remembering. So I don't
That's
think
the
I ever
best
fully
one.
played it. That's the best one.
That's the best one. Like, gameplay-wise, story-wise, all of Arkham City is the best one out of all of them, and it really is just it's really fun, like, playing as Batman, and also like the main two characters you play in that story are Batman and Catwoman, and just the story in that game really just it was so great. The Joker storyline in there, spoilers for people who haven't played a game that came out like 11 years ago. He dies at the end, leading to a whole bunch of stuff going on in Arkham Knight, which was a pretty good game. That's the second best. I would say Arkham City, Arkham Knight, and then Arkham Asylum. And then if you could include like Arkham Origins, that'll be like the last one, because that's just more
Yeah.
like Arkham City 2.0, right? But Arkham City really is just that game. This that superhero game. It's the game where you really feel like Batman. And Arkham Knight added like the Batmobile, and you could play as more characters and stuff within the game, like within like side story content or whatever, and a few story segments. But it really was my thing about Arkham Knight is like Jason Todd. I like Jason Todd, but all he does is whine sometimes. That's my thing about him. He spent the whole game whining around being a baby. You left me. I got shot by the Joker. I get it. Trauma. Go to therapy too. Learn something. I don't know. Because why is it that everybody in the Batman universe decides, hey, I'm gonna go beat up some criminals. I'm gonna become a villain because my life just wasn't what I wanted it to be. Jason, though, at least he has um like he's traumatized in a way. He has like a thing because he was like thrown into because he died. So they put him in the what's that pit? I forget what it's called. You know, when they
In
bring
the
people
Lazarus Pit.
the Lazarus pit. So whenever somebody's put in the
Mhm.
Lazarus pit, they always come out a little bit more crazy. So at least he had an excuse. But come on, Bruce. Somebody has to be like a good figure for them besides Alfred, because nobody listens to
Right.
Alfred. Everybody loves Alfred. Alfred is amazing. He is the best. But it's just like some of y'all just need to get your stuff together. Cause like why did you decide I'm gonna dress in a bat suit and terrorize Gotham City just to get revenge on like my adopted father because I got shot by his arch. Never no. See how complicated that is.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But the Arkham games just really are influential, and they all still hold up today, and they're still just like fun to play, and that's why I put them as my number 5 because they're just that great. They're just fun. You have anything to say about those?
So for me, I'm terrible at video games.
Oh.
Like absolutely terrible. For some reason, I've never been good at video games. I always enjoy playing them, but I've
Mhm.
just never been good at them. And like the Arkham games have a great way of frustrating me as a not good video game player. I don't know if my coordination's off or like what's going on. But so it kind of made me like really in and out on the Arkham games. But I did
Mhm.
more so like watching other people play them.
Mhm.
Because when I would play them myself, I would always get frustrated, couldn't get past stuff. Like, I don't know, I'm
Was
just
it
terrible at video games.
was it usually like the stealth sections or like the combat? Which one really got you?
Probably like the stealth.
Mhm.
The combat wasn't too bad because, you know, you fail a couple times and then you kind of get the hang of it. But like the stealth
Mhm.
would be like killing me.
That's about right. That sounds about right. I haven't played these games in like years though. That's also why they're in my number 5 because while I enjoyed them from the time I did play them, because I think I own Arkham City and Arkham Knight, but I can't really play them anymore because when I got them, there's this video game website called Humble Bundle. And so basically what it does is it gives a whole bunch of video games on sale, and then you buy those video games and they send your money to charity. And so those 2 games were on the Humble Bundle sale one time, like years ago, and I bought them, and then I was playing them on my laptop. I played Asylum because somebody else owned it and I played it, but those 2, I was playing those games and then my laptop because it was just like a laptop and it wasn't like any sort of gaming laptop. It died and just never came back to life. That's almost so, as far as those games, that's as far as I went with those, but Arkham City is really the best one. And Arkham Origins, I just played, like, a few minutes of that, and I just turned it off.
Same. Yeah. It
But,
wasn't like, it was okay.
yeah.
It was just
Um,
okay.
yeah. Okay, so my number 4 actually is also another The Batman, but it's not the Batman the movie, the 22 movie, it's the Batman the TV show that ran from 2004 to 2008. You remember that show? The
Yes, I definitely
Batman.
remember that. That was my show.
Yes, that show is very nostalgic to me. That also I have a habit of I guess I have a habit of just, like, liking young superheroes, like superhero shows, because the Batman X-Men Evolution is my favorite X-Men show. I love that show.
Oh, that was a good show.
I watch that show once a year. I really do. Like, I always turn on X-Men Evolution ever since I was, 10 years old, 10 or 9 years old when I first discovered it when they put it on Disney XD. Every year since, I watch it once per year. And the Batman, I don't watch it once per year like I do X-Men Evolution, but when I do go back and watch this show, it's really fun because it's like a different type of Batman show. It's the younger Bruce Wayne. It's 3 years into his career. I was just watching the episodes, a few more episodes before, like, this podcast because I was trying to get as much, like, remembrance of all this stuff in my head so I wouldn't be, like, sitting here rambling and pretending like I know what I'm talking about when I don't. But, like, it's
Right.
just, like, him following, like it's the younger Bruce Wayne, him, like, fighting crime. He's, like, only 3 years into his career, and it's different from, like I find it interesting how we talked about the movie The Batman and how this show The Batman, how Bruce Wayne, when he's younger in this show, he's really just like a slacker. He really is like the playboy. Like, he is
Right.
always going out to events. He's always doing, like, his thing. And the first season specifically was really, like, story driven because it focused on him and, like, his relationship with the GCPD and how
Right.
they didn't like Batman, right? Because Batman, as we know,
Mhm.
really does work with the police department, even though some people don't like him within the department. But in here, nobody likes him, and it's him going against them. And then one of his best friends, Ethan Bennett, is like in the police department, but he doesn't know he's Batman, right? And he eventually becomes Clayface at the end of the season because the Joker decides to do creepy stuff as per usual. And it's just like his relationship to the police department, and eventually he goes on to the first 2 seasons are really just Batman, and then the 3rd season
Right.
introduces Batgirl as his sidekick, which I thought was pretty cool. It was interesting because usually it's Robin before Batgirl, right? So this show decides to do it
Right.
differently. Actually, because it was because DC television shows back in, like, the early 2000s and 2010s, they had this weird rule that if a character was, like, in one TV show, they couldn't be in another one. So, since Robin was in Teen Titans, they couldn't put him in the Batman. So, they put Batgirl in first instead, but that actually worked better for the show and worked better for the character because you saw the dynamic between, like, Bruce and Barbara, and then once Dick came in, you had that dynamic with all 3 of them. And then by the 5th season, that was, like, the Brave and the Bold.
Yeah.
And so they had all the different superheroes come in. They had some of the Justice League come in. All besides like Wonder Woman, they didn't have any female Justice League members, which that was it was weird because Wonder Woman, they were trying to do a Wonder Woman TV show, so that's why she couldn't be in there. But I was like, you could use like Black Canary or something. This is weird.
Yeah. They could have put somebody there.
But so that was the Brave and the Bold, and that show went on for 5 seasons, and so the Batman, not Batman the Brave and the Bold, even though that show is a good show too.
Right.
But that it's just, like, really that show. I remember because I was, doing research on it, and I remember do you remember I don't know if you remember this, like, when we were kids, there was this, like, thing called the Video Now. Do you remember the Video Now?
What was that? The what?
Video Now.
Video now.
No,
Was
you
that like a
probably don't remember.
website?
No. So it was like this, like, portable little DVD player for, like, kids or whatever, and so they would put, like, the TV
Mhm.
shows on there, and so how I like to think about it, it was like a Nintendo or like a Game Boy Advance, but it was, like, really big,
Oh,
and so you
yeah, yeah,
put the
yeah. I do
CD
remember
in,
that.
you had the yeah. As I had the Batman, like, CD, and it was like a game and kinda a TV show, and so you had to press the buttons on time or you will lose, and you had to restart the game, and that was, like I feel like that's, like, my first memory of that show, and then I remember when I was younger, when the show was still on TV, I had this coloring book of the Batman, and just I remember always when I was ever, like, in church or whatever, or in school or whatever, I, like, have that coloring book with me, and I was always coloring, like, just to pass time or whatever, and that show just because I feel like people there are tons of Batman TV shows, if you guys too many Batman TV shows sometimes, but see, Wonder Woman still has no TV show, and that's what gets on my nerve like, an animated show.
She does need more. Yeah.
She needs more. They're finally trying to push her a bit more since the movies, but even then,
Right.
I'm like, "Where's my Wonder Woman animated series?" I've been waiting for that since I was 2 years old. But So you have that, you have Batman and Brave and the Bold, you have Batman the Animated Series, all those shows, but I feel like the Batman is, like, the most underrated one. So that's why I put that on my list because it
Yeah,
was just
I
pretty
definitely
cool.
agree with that because the Batman was like a hidden gem. A
Mhm.
lot of people like didn't really watch it for real, but it was like you were saying, like the storylines were like really good. And like just the character development and the way that they did the show. And I like the art because it was different from what we were used to seeing. So I
Mhm.
always thought that was really cool. Just like
Mhm.
seeing how the art changed over time from
Mhm.
like Batman the animated series to the Batman. I
Mhm.
always really enjoyed that show and I still watch it sometimes too.
Yeah. They just put it back on Netflix or whatever because they started removing, like, all the shows off, like, HBO Max and Max. When they changed it to Max, they started removing, like, a whole bunch of shows, and so now they're just, like,
Mhm.
taking those shows and throwing them on a whole bunch of random streaming service like Netflix and Amazon and all that stuff. It's stupid, but it is what it is. It is what it is.
Right.
Okay, so what's your number 2?
So my number two is also an animated Batman show. It's a little bit different. Tell me if you remember this one. It's called Beware the Batman.
Beware the Batman. Yeah,
Yep, I actually thoroughly enjoyed that show.
that show is different. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it was like I think the first thing that you gotta point out was like the art, right? It
Mhm.
was like this weird CGI type. I guess that's what you would call it. I really don't
Mhm.
even know.
CGI, yeah.
But
It was like cell
yeah, like the
shaded CGI a little bit.
yeah, it was like the art was so different. And what I really liked about that show was that they were using characters that you typically don't see, like
Mhm.
Professor Pig, Mr.
Yeah.
Toad, or Anarchy, or
Mhm.
who else did they have on there? Like it just was really good. And what I liked
Mhm.
too was like for the first time on a cartoon, we saw Alfred not be old. He was like still like, he wasn't, just carrying around Bruce's, like, food and stuff and, like,
Mhm.
cleaning up. He actually they were actually, like, showing us his roots of being, British intelligence agent who actually could fight and could still actually be an asset to Batman more than just a
Mhm.
butler. And I thought that was cool. But even more so than that, I love that they choose, Katana as his
Mhm.
sidekick instead of a Robin or a Batgirl. I feel like this show dared to be different
Mhm.
by
Yeah.
using lesser known characters and lesser known story arcs
Mhm.
and really making it popular. Cause a lot of people forget about Katana, but she was
Mhm.
definitely a really cool character.
She
And
is a cool
so to
character.
see that was like awesome. And I was like, man, this show is good. And like the way that I wish that it had ran longer. I don't think people were really into it like that.
Yeah.
But I really like what they did with Deathstroke too. Like the way that, I think that was in the end of the second season, but his story arc was really good too.
Wait, the show had 2
I just really
seasons?
liked it.
I thought it was
Yeah,
just, like,
two
1
seasons.
full season. Oh.
Oh, or
Oh my
it might
gosh.
have been,
I don't know.
it might
No,
have
it
been
probably
one
was
season.
what they probably did because I remember, like, at that time, they had it on what like, DC used to have this thing on Saturdays where they would show, like, Young Justice, Green
Yeah.
Lantern, Beware the
Hmm.
Batman, DC Nation, something like it was something like that. I don't remember what it
Yeah, I
was
think it
called.
was DC Nation.
And, yeah, and they had that, and Beware the Batman what happened with that show is they were airing it, and then they stopped, and I think they started airing it on Adult Swim because they were just trying to get rid
Mm,
of it, I think. If
okay.
I could be mistaken because when I started seeing the other Beware the Batman episodes, like, the later episodes, they weren't I didn't watch them on TV, I watched them on, like, YouTube or something or, like, online or something like that.
Yeah,
Um
I think I did too, actually. Now that I think
Mhm,
about it.
mhm. And because they were trying to kill shows. Cartoon Network has a habit of trying to kill DC shows. They do that a lot, but,
They definitely do.
yeah, I remember the show, it was called Justice League Action. It came out, like, when like, on a
Yeah.
last year of high school or something like that, and
Yeah.
it was, like, 11 minutes or whatever, and they were when the show first aired, they aired it on, like, a Friday night. And then after that, they would air it early on Saturday mornings, like at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning where children aren't awake anymore because Saturday morning cartoons hardly existed. And so they would air it that early. And then after a fact, like a year later, they brought it back and they would air it early every day. So it'll be like a weekday show from Monday to Friday and air all the rest of the episodes, but they would be like in 5 or 6 in the morning too. It was
Mm,
interesting. It's interesting how network try to get rid of shows. It was
right.
interesting. But Beware the Batman was an interesting show. And also, I like how they used like Commissioner Gordon and Barbara too. It was interesting seeing
Yeah.
Barbara as Oracle before
Right.
her ever becoming Batgirl, which actually was, I think, was pretty cool because Barbara Gordon as a character is a very intelligent, smart character. She's probably like the smartest character in the Bat family. So
Definitely.
seeing them introduce her by using her intelligence instead of, and they were training her to learn how to fight, like, later in the season or whatever. She never became Batgirl
Right.
'cause the show only went on for so long, but she was using her skills in hacking and stuff like that, and they were introducing that to eventually, like, it made sense, it made sense. That's another show that introduced that character before they introduced Robin too, which is interesting. I feel like they do it a lot with the younger Batman things, like, they introduced Barbara before they introduced Dick. And
I
Katana
think that's cool.
Katana was fun. Her dynamic with Bruce was fun, and as far as I can remember, Alfred, his accent too, I can't remember his accent because it wasn't like he I don't know where he was from. Obviously, he was, like, from, like, Europe or whatever, but I don't know what type of
Right.
accent you'll call it. But he was funny. They would always argue, him and, Bruce, because he was just like
Right.
but I haven't seen that show in years, though, so I can't really remember what happened besides those parts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always like just younger Batman stuff and superhero stuff in general, though. Really, that's why I liked Young Justice. I can't stand
Yeah.
that show anymore. But I would go on a whole rant about Young Justice because I liked season 1. They have 4 seasons of Young Justice. So I liked season 1. Season 2 came, I hated that. I tried to watch it again when they were bringing season 3. I still hated it. And then season 3
Mm,
came, and it was okay. People love season 2 though, that's the thing. People love seasons 1 and 2 of Young Justice, but I can't
mhm.
stand season 2. Season 2 of Young Justice is a thing that made me hate time skips in general. It's really hard for me to
Wow.
get into time skips because why? Because there was a 5-year time skip. But, like, why did you do a 5-year time skip when you introducing new characters to the team? They added my girl Rocket in there from, like, Rocket and Icon. I love, like, Icon and
Right.
Rocket, the Milestone comics, Static, all of them. And so they
Yeah.
introduced her in there. I'm like, "This is a black girl. This is cool." As soon
Right.
as the season ended, she was in 2 episodes. As soon as the season ended, 5-year time skip, tons of Zatanna on Justice League. At least Zatanna had her arc in season 1, right? So, and then Justice
Right.
League, season 2, they introduced too many characters. I hated it so much, and there are characters that I liked, but you didn't get a chance to get to know them because they decide, "Let's have this 5-year time skip," and then as the show goes on, they decide, "Okay, we're gonna keep having time skips." Luckily, in season 3 and, like, season 3, they only had, like, 2-year time skip, right? And it was okay, but the thing about season 3 is they weren't focused on the characters, they were more so focused on, like, the world building, so stuff was
Yeah.
happening, but it wasn't like, it was stupid. And season 4 was better. I only like seasons 1 and 4. Like, I can watch season 3 and sit with it. I can look at season 2 and pick a few episodes, and I like this episode, I like this episode, but then throw the rest of the season away. But season 4, it went back. It still was trying to do what season 3 did with, like, the world building and stuff, but it focused
Yeah.
more on the main cast, so every character had an arc. Miss Martian and Superboy shared an arc, like a 5-episode arc, and then after that, it was Artemis, who's now, I forgot who she is now. She's not Artemis anymore. She's Cheshire. No, not Cheshire, that's her sister. She's Huntress. She's Huntress. And then the 3rd arc focused on Zatanna. The 4th arc focused
Yeah.
1, 2. The oh, wait, and then the next one I think focused on Aqualad, but he's Aquaman now. And then the other one
Right.
focused on Rocket, and then the last one focused on Nightwing, and then the last arc was less of a Nightwing one, and the story just coming together, and then all of them came together as a team. And so it was cool seeing, like, Rocket finally get some character development. Some, I'm not getting into it, but she got some character development, and this is a Batman episode. It's not a Young Justice episode. Let me shut up because I'm about to get my frustrations out on that show. But watch Young Justice. I'm sure people will love it. People love
Oh
season 1
yeah.
and 2, but I hate season 2 with a passion, and it's probably like the 13-year-old me just, like, still hating it because of what happened then, but I try to take off those, like, glasses of that 13-year-old Kaiser, but every time I do it, I just still get disgusted, so
Yeah. It's just like, I liked season 1 and 2. 3 is
Mhm.
okay, and I'm gonna be honest, I never finished 4.
You never
I
finished
made
4.
it up until the point yeah, I made it up until the point of Superboy, like, dying or whatever, and then I
Mhm.
just never went back to it.
It got better after that. It got because I feel like the first arc was rough because they were doing, like, the marriage thing, but then Artemis
Ye
Huntress's arc is the best. It's, like, one of the top 2. I'll say her arc and the last arc are the best arcs because that's when they, like Huntress's arc is basically like the Batfamily arc because that's when you have was Stephanie Brown in that one? I think Stephanie Brown was in that one, and also Cassandra Cain was in there, and Barbara Gordon was in there, and so that was basically like the Batfamily one. And then Zatanna, I didn't like the Zatanna arc because it focused too much. It was trying to do too I liked it as like a story, but as like a character type of thing. Focusing on Zatanna, it didn't really do that. And they didn't but then they made up for it on the last arc because Zatanna was like the best character in the last arc. So I don't know. Like season 4 is complicated to me. Like season 1 is the best season. That's all I can say. When your first
Definitely,
season is the
and
best season of your show, that's what gets on my nerves. Like when the first season is the best season, that's the thing that gets on my nerves about that show of the injustice. But you know
right.
what? It is what it is. It is what it is. Back to Batman. Anything else about anything else about Before the Batman? There you
That's pretty much all I got on that one. I would just definitely tell people to go and watch it. It
go.
was
Yeah.
short-lived, but it was a fun ride.
Mhm. So my next one would be Batman Wayne Family Adventures. Have you ever heard of that?
I don't think so. What's that?
So it's actually a webtoon. So DC Comics decided to make an agreement with Webtoon so they can make like DC centered webtoons on their service. And so Batman Wayne Family Adventures is basically what does Batman do and the Bat family do when they're not fighting crime. And so it basically is this
Mhm.
Batman slice of life thing. And it's so good. It's some of the best Batman character development for all the family, for all the characters that I've seen in a long time, because the modern comics are doing pretty good. They're hit or miss depending on because there are like 20,000 different Batman comic books. So
Right.
at least 10,000 of those 20,000 are gonna be good. But Batman and Wayne Family Adventures really just focuses on those characters and focuses on their relationship as a family. And Bruce Wayne is actually a good dad in that. He's actually a good dad. He's not like emotionally abusive.
That's surprising.
He's he hugs them. Like, there was one because I was literally binging it yesterday, trying to get through as much as I can because they release, like, 8 new ones every week or whatever, so I had a whole bunch to go because 'cause they're on season 2 of it, and so they have 102 of them out so far, and webtoons are quick to read, you just scroll and then you're finished, right? And so I was going through all of those and just, like, the character development. At one point, he, like, Jason Todd one of them is Jason Todd having PTSD of, like, the Joker, having a reminder, like, when the Joker beat him to death with why am I laughing? Beat to death with the I don't know my tools. The crowbar, and so the crowbar dropped on the ground, and then he started freaking out and having a moment. And so Bruce went to check on him, and he talked him to have him remind him who he was, like, where he was or whatever. And at the end of the story, he, like, kissed him on the head or whatever. I'm like, "Wait, are you being a good father?" And
Right.
then there was one where they're, like, fighting over because they were eating cookies, Alfred baked cookies, and they were fighting over who gets the last cookie, and so they were all, like, literally fighting, like, hand-to-hand combat, all this stuff, like, they fight criminals just to get that cookie. One with Barbara Gordon, like, I really because they have, like, really funny ones, and then they have, like, really, like, deep character ones. And one with Barbara Gordon, because she's Oracle in this one, she, like, really is, like, pushing herself because she has this responsibility to save people or whatever. She's pushing herself to make sure she's always telling people where to go, what to do. Everybody always needs her help. And for 3, 4 days straight, she didn't get any sleep because she kept going and going. It was her, like, learning how to take rest and knowing when to, like, set your boundaries and put, like it's teaching life lessons. That's what it does. It teaches life lessons, and it's just so good. Like, you need to read Batman Wayne if you're a Batman fan and you, like, really just wanna see some good character development, the Wayne Family Adventures is just, like, a really good, webtoon to read because they have the webtoon, of course, so you can just read all of them. And also they published like the first season in a trade paperback too, so you can get it in like graphic novel form too. And it's really good. It's really fun to read. It really just develops those characters, and I'm a sucker for like character development. I always like love having characters over stories. Like character development over the stories. I always feel like a story can be bad, but if you have good characters and the characters can help carry like your show or your comic or your book or whatever. I feel like that's just me. But Wayne
No,
Family
I
Adventures is
definitely
really
agree
good.
with that. Because
Yeah.
nobody likes characters that they feel disconnected to. Like, I want to
Mhm.
watch this character grow from one point to another. So I'm definitely going to have to check that out. I've never heard of that.
It's really good. You need to read it. And it's on Webtoon. So that's pretty cool. And I suggest everybody checks that out. And my number 2, because I'm just gonna go there, is Girl Year One. It's not a Batman story, but it's a Batgirl story, but it's also a Batman story because of the Batgirl story. So you ever read
Right.
Batgirl Year One? Or they have a motion comic. Have you ever watched that?
I actually haven't. I remember when it
Mhm.
came out, though.
Mhm.
I've actually fallen off comic books like really badly in the last
Mhm.
couple of years, really from
Mhm.
just being so busy that I can't keep up.
Most
But I
people
heard a
do.
lot of people like raving about it,
Yeah.
and I know it was good, girl. I honestly don't think I've ever read a bad girl story.
I have.
Is that why they brought her back to the purple costume?
No, Batgirl Year One. Batgirl Year One, when it's the year one story of Barbara Gordon, so how she becomes Batgirl. You know how you have Batman Year One, Robin Year One, Batgirl Year One. It's the first year of her as Batgirl. Is Barbara Gordon coming to her own as Batgirl. So they have the motion comic. And so when I was watching the motion comic yesterday, I'm just gonna be because I was finished with working and everything. So it was like later in the day, way later in the day. And I looked at the motion comic and I'm like, it's on YouTube, and they put all the episodes as short episodes. So each episode is 3 minutes because 'cause they're doing it issue by issue, right? And they put in a playlist of 20. So yesterday I took all of those, because I was bored because 'cause I'm like, I have nothing else to do today. I took all those 20 episodes, put them in my editing thing, took out the credits, like, that were in between the episodes, just had the first one and the last one, added those in the end, and just edited them all together and put them together in a movie and just posted it on YouTube. Because I got tired of because I watched it several times from when I was a kid, and I was like, I really like Batgirl Year One as a story, and you should watch it because when I put it together, it's like only an hour, but it's really just Barbara Gordon showing Barbara Gordon who she is as a character and why she became Batgirl. So it starts off with her. She's not Batgirl, of course. She wants to be a part of GCPD, but the thing is, and it's actually really relatable. Like seeing as my dad like a police officer. I never wanted to be like a police officer, but seeing the things that he went through or whatever, he always was, I don't ever want my children to ever be in law enforcement, right? I can't force you not to be in it, but I don't want you to be in it, right? And so Barbara, she wants to be in law enforcement, and her dad's like, "No, you're not doing that. I don't want you to do that." And she's, "But I want to like, this is the stuff I want to do." And so it's like the world is all against her. Her father's against her. She doesn't meet the height requirements to be like on the field. She's 5'2", and then like you don't even meet the height requirements to be a police officer, so you can't even be one. Her karate teacher even's like making fun of her until she like beats him up. And so she decides I'm gonna be a crime fighter. So it's basically her against the world. It's showing off the smarts of Barbara Gordon. She hacks into the Justice League because at first she didn't want to be a Batman sidekick. That's the thing about Barbara Gordon that I found interesting. She didn't want to be a Batman sidekick. She wanted to work with Black Canary, right? She wanted to join Black Canary, so she hacked into the Justice. I don't know if they're the Justice Society or Justice League. She hacked into their headquarters, went in there, and then left a note to let them know that she was there, and they didn't catch her on the cameras. And then so she left a note for them to meet up with her or whatever. And basically they turned her down or whatever. And so what ended up happening is she decided to dress up as Batman for a party that her dad invited her to. It was like a Halloween party or something. She
Mhm.
decided to
Okay.
dress up as Batman to like kind of mess with him or whatever. But at the same time, um, Killer Moth, I was about to call him Mothman. Killer Moth decides to break into the party and he wants to like steal Bruce Wayne. So she ends up deciding that she wants to be a hero because that's what she always wanted to be, and starts to fight him. And so she ended up basically becoming Batgirl because she was caught fighting crime in a Batman costume. And but she didn't wanna be Batgirl, and Batman was against her being Batgirl. He's like, "You're not being you're not joining me. This is dangerous. Go home." But it's just her continuing to fight crime anyway and doing her own thing anyway, and it's basically just showing Barbara Gordon, it's showing that she has agency. She didn't become Batgirl because of Batman. She didn't even wanna be Batgirl in the first place, but she became it because she decided that she wanted to change the world, and she wanted to make it a better place. And so she didn't do it because she was like, "Oh, wow, I'm gonna fight crime with Batman." She did it because she felt like Gotham needed a hero, and the heroes that they had just weren't enough. That's what I like about Barbara Gordon in general. That's why I put this as my number 2 because Barbara Gordon is just an amazing character, and she really is, like, my favorite, and no matter whether she's Batgirl or whether she's Oracle or whether she's just Barbara Gordon, she always finds a way to do what's right, and she always finds a way to help people. Because when she became Oracle, right, she got shot by the Joker, and what did she do? Instead of sitting there and lying about being poor and me when she got paralyzed, she got up. She went on her own, like, little training arc like Batman did when he was younger. She learned how to fight again in a wheelchair, and then she used her smarts to become Oracle and became one of the biggest parts of the DC universe. And then she became Batgirl again, but even now, she's not, even when she's just Batgirl, she's not just Batgirl anymore. She's both now actually in a comic book. She's Oracle and Batgirl, but it's just like Barbara Gordon as a character really is the character that shows that no matter what comes your way, no matter what setbacks come in your way, all you have to do is just continue to do what you wanna do, you know what I mean? And you can't let other people hold you back. And that's why I just enjoyed Batgirl Year One, because it's just a really good story. It's a fun story to read, it's a fun story to watch, whichever you do, and it's just great. It's great. That's all I'm gonna say.
Cool. So let me ask you this,
Mhm.
because I think with everything that you've just said, I think you'll agree with me when I say that it's disappointing that they just canceled the Batgirl movie and that we'll never get to see anything from it.
Yeah. That is disappointing. I agree completely 100%. Whether it was good, whether it was bad, whether it was just mediocre, I feel like that was a movie that deserved to be put out because they basically finished the movie too. They finished everything, and they just wrote it off for taxes.
Yes.
And
Are y'all serious? Y'all wasted those people's time and we wanted to see it because we've never
we wanted to
had
see it.
a Batgirl
Mhm.
movie.
We never had a Batgirl movie, and it really is really something that I want to see too. Especially, I feel like who's the actress they had to cast her? Leslie Grace. I feel like
Yeah.
she really embodied like her personality as like a actress, like as herself. From what I saw, she really embodied like who Barbara Gordon is as a character too. And like the smarts, the wit, the just energy, everything. And it made me upset. And I wanted to see like the costume moving and everything, but we didn't get to see that.
Right.
And
I
that is,
honestly just feel robbed.
yeah, it's disappointing. As a Barbara Gordon fan, it's disappointing because she's my favorite, like, Bat Family member. Like, her and Nightwing are, like, side by side. Like, Nightwing and
Yeah.
Barbara are, like, side by side to me in the favorite Bat Family member category. And it's just, like, disappointing to see, like, how she finally had her chance to be, like, the character, right, outside of, like, the comic book landscape, and it was just taken away from her.
And I hope that they revisit that honestly,
Mhm,
because I still want to see that. I don't want
mhm,
it to be something that they just throw by the wayside.
mhm.
We still need that.
Mhm.
We're going to need a redo.
Yeah, I feel like somebody probably kept a copy of the movie, like, secretly stole it, and one day it's just gonna pop up on the internet.
I'm really hoping so.
Mhm.
And that hopefully it like leaks on the internet so we can
Mhm.
watch it.
Yep, it'll leak. It'll be great, it'll be great, and then I hope it's a good movie or everybody will be disappointed. But still, like, the fact that they did that and just wrote it off is stupid,
Right.
and it was supposed to be on HBO Max before it was Max, and then, like, once HBO Max became Max, it just went downhill because they just started removing just, like, a whole bunch of stuff a whole bunch of
Right.
movies. Like, it's horrendous what they did to that streaming service. It's still a good streaming
Yeah.
service, but I don't have it anymore. That's all I'm gonna say. But it is what it is. It is what it is. Everybody just read or watch Batgirl Year One. And I posted the full movie on YouTube because hopefully I don't get sued. But it'll stay on
I
there
don't
until it
think
stay
so.
on there. No, them it's like it was already on YouTube anyway, and it's like the motion comics is like 12, 15 years old, like some in between that. So nobody's gonna take it down. Nobody cares. Nobody
Yeah,
cares.
you should be good.
Watch the full thing, and then you won't have to watch episode to episode, having to skip the titles, like the intro screen and then the credits all the time because I just put it all together. I was proud of myself that I did that in just like a few hours. I don't know what. I s- Sometimes I just do random stuff. I'm just like, I have the habit of just, I don't know. I get into stuff. I get into shenanigans. Let me shut up.
Hey, that's
Um,
like my phone.
that's how you make life fun. Yeah, because I don't even have a life, so I might as well just make some from it. Do you have any honorable mentions? I should say before we get to your number one, Jared. Do you have any honorable mentions that you might have thought about but you didn't put on your list? Anything?
Honorable mentions would definitely be Batman Beyond from 1999, the
Mm,
animated series.
I did not think of that one.
Absolutely loved that show.
I
I
did not
thought it
think
was
about that show
really
one
good.
bit. I forgot about that show. I really did, and it's like it's such a good show too. But I
Right. It's
forgot
like so many
all
people
about it.
forget about it, but it
Mhm.
was so good though. And it was like what I really liked about it most was that they really tried to make you feel like you were in the future with like how they
Mhm.
change stuff, like how people talk, like how they would be like, "Oh, that was so sway." I would be saying that as a kid,
You did.
talking about I love the flying cars and just the technology that they had. It really made me feel like that's what the future was going to be like. And what I liked about it too was like it showed that Batman is a timeless character. So no
Mhm.
matter what era it is, they're gonna always every version of Gotham City needs the Batman.
Mhm.
And even though this one was different, because I feel like Terry McGinnis, he was a lot more like Dick Grayson because he was young and he was
Yeah.
like full of youth and he's like funny. He's Batman, but he's like making jokes and stuff like Nightwing would. Or it just was really cool to see like a still very serious version of Batman, but like he's also younger and he's got like a cool suit, like it's all black. He doesn't have a cape, and like
Yeah.
he glides and he has the fire pushes from his feet. Like just all the cool stuff was like, I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. And I still go back and watch that sometimes too.
Mhm.
And like for people who haven't seen it, definitely to go see it. And what I like too is that it still falls in the Batman the animated series, Justice League universe.
Universe, the
So it's like,
DCAU.
yeah, the DCAU. And so
Mhm.
like they had the episodes when Superman came back. And there was the episode
Yeah.
when one of my favorite episodes is when Bruce gets in the Lazarus pit and he's 30 years younger when he comes out. So now it's like a Bruce in like his 50s fighting along with Terry
Wait.
McGinnis.
Okay, 30 years younger. He's still his 50s.
It was
Wait.
awesome.
No, but it's weird. Bruce Wayne was old because I remember I haven't seen Batman Beyond. I was about to say Beware the Batman. I haven't seen Batman Beyond like the series in so long. And I remember like when it first started, it was Bruce Wayne. He was still fighting the costume, but he was like going through a whole bunch of pain
Yeah.
because he was old. He was old, and so Terry McGinnis came in after like his dad died. They had a whole
Yeah.
storyline too, where I think Bruce Wayne was actually his father.
Yep. They sure. Oh my goodness. I was going to
Yeah.
ask you if you remembered that.
hmm
Yes. That was awesome.
See, the thing about like Batman Beyond, because I like Batman Beyond a lot, but that show I feel like introduced like a whole bunch of problems to DCAU too. Because not Paul Dini. I like Paul Dini. He's one of the writers and artists. What's his name? Bruce Tim. Bruce
Yeah.
Tim.
Bruce Timm.
That man, he is an interesting person because not only did he do that, and it was fun. I didn't mind like the Terry McGinnis is actually your son thing or whatever. I don't care. The thing that annoyed me is when they had like a tie-in movie to like with Joker. Was it the Return of the Joker or something like that?
Yeah. Mhm.
And they insinuated that Bruce and Barbara were in a romantic relationship, right?
Right.
First of all, that's gross. That's your daughter. Second of all, not actually his daughter. That's his daughter. And second of all, they did Batman: The Killing Joke. You ever seen that movie? The
Hmm.
animated movie? And then they did
Yep.
this whole thing where Batman and Batgirl decide to have sex on a rooftop. And so I'm
I
like,
remember that.
what the heck are you doing?
Yeah, we could have done without that.
We could have done without that. This isn't I do not wanna think about Bruce Wayne having a thing with any of his keep Catwoman over there, okay? If he needs to have
Right.
some keep Catwoman over there, maybe let him get Talia pregnant if you wanna do
Yeah.
that,
Mhm.
but don't come over here and then have him, like, having sex with his son's ex or girlfriend or whatever, I don't know, love interest, and it's just that's gross, don't and Bruce Timm has a weird habit of doing that with, like he has this weird habit with Barbara Gordon specifically doing that with her, like, putting her in that weird place, and I guess it's probably because she's
Yeah.
my favorite character, and he does that with female characters a lot, and that's just me as a person. Female characters are usually it's because I read a lot of X-Men probably. Female characters usually are, like, my favorite characters in X-Men comics, the female characters are very prominent. This is a Batman podcast, but I don't care. Like, when Chris Claremont took over the X-Men, so you had the original 5 X-Men in the '60s, right? And some of the '70s,
Right.
right? The all-white team and 1 girl. And when Chris Claremont took over the series, that's when you had the international team. Wolverine, Storm, Nightcrawler, all of them. They all came from different parts of the world, all different characters, and when Chris Claremont, he wrote X-Men and its subsequent titles like New Mutants and all the spinoffs and stuff for 17 years straight. 17 years that man built the X-Men universe. And that's why Storm is my favorite X-Men character because in like the '70s and '80s, she was the main character of the X-Men comics, basically. She was his favorite character. That's why I always feel like the only 2 characters like in the X-Men that can carry a full movie, like solo movies, would be Wolverine and Storm. Because if you look at the material, if you actually read the material, some people who haven't read X-Men, like who only seen like the movies or whatever, and like how they treat Storm, you would think that she really doesn't really have anything to do but use her powers or whatever. And in some of the cartoons too, most of X-Men Evolution does that too, even though that's my favorite X-Men cartoon. They did nothing with Storm in there, really,
Yeah,
besides
they
have her
did
use
not
her
focus on
powers.
her at
And Wolverine and X-Men did even worse. Storm was just
yeah.
like there. They had to continually knock her out because she was too powerful. That's literally the thing. They had to literally knock her out because she's too hopefully in this new X-Men cartoon, they give her, like, the respect she deserves. I hate that stupid mohawk, though. But in the '80s, she was the main character, and, like, Chris Claremont really just loved her, and she was his favorite character, and so from the '70s and '80s, X-Men was really just, like, Storm-centric. She had the best stories going on, she had the best things going on. He introduced a whole bunch of female characters. He did the Phoenix Saga and Dark Phoenix Saga with Jean Grey, and the whole build up to that was just, like, amazing. And Jean Grey, I love Jean Grey too. Like, he just brought in a whole bunch of female characters. And so whenever I see, like, a female character in, like, different things, like, being mistreated, I don't know, it annoys me. I don't know,
Yeah,
I
I
guess
agree with
because I
that
grew up
though,
with that.
because it's very obvious that they don't want to spend as much time developing them.
Mhm.
Like, why do you? What's the problem here? I've
It's
never
just
understood it, so I definitely agree with you on that one.
and it's probably the reason my sister always make fun of me because she always say I don't like men, but men are okay. But I'm a man, so I have to, like she always messing with me because 'cause I'm always like whenever, like, a man does something stupid on TV, I'm always like, "Man, that man, that's a stupid man," or whatever, and she's always, "The woman did something too," and I was like, "I didn't see that." But she always
Like,
joked with me. But no, but men are okay. But it's just things like that and just coming from the X-Men and stuff like that. And just looking how they treat those characters and stuff. Bruce Timm
right.
just needs to do better sometimes. Keep him away from Barbara Gordon, that's all you have to do. And then let him do all the other stuff. Just keep him away from Barbara Gordon and we're good. But when we talked about the Batman, we already talked about my number 1, so I guess I'll just tell you my honorable mentions and pretend like that's a number 1, okay? So, for my honorable mentions, I wanted to do, like, stuff that were, like comic book storylines, but that I didn't put in my list because Batman is a comic book character, right? So I might as well add like some storylines there. And so I put Batman Hush. That's an iconic storyline if
I
everybody's ever read
love
that.
Hush.
It's such a good
I
storyline.
love Hush.
So good. And I feel like the Batman pull from Batman Hush and another Batman story that I put in my honorable mentions, The Long Halloween. I think it kind of combined
Definitely.
a lot of elements of both of those. And both of those storylines are so good. Hush is basically about this stalker kind of character called Hush. And he's like intent on sabotaging Batman. And this is where like a lot of characters are like introduced into the Batman mythos. I think Batman Hush takes place after Batman Year One, like chronologically. And so you see a lot of Batman family members. You get Superman in there. Like they made an animated movie of it too. It wasn't that good, but they made it. And so you can watch that. The Long Halloween is the one that I like the best out of, like, Batman Hush and The Long Halloween because no, so maybe The Long Halloween is the one after Year One. I don't know. I don't know my chronological. It's DC Comics. They don't have a history, though. They keep rebooting it, so I don't care. But Batman: A Long Halloween is basically, like, all his it's like this mystery, obviously, it's a Batman story, but it's where you have Harvey Dent. I'm looking at my notes 'cause I gotta remember. Catwoman comes in. You got Commissioner Gordon before he's a commissioner. Um, it focuses on like the Maroni and the Falcone family, and it has the Catwoman like mystery going on. And you find out that she's actually related to people who I will not say. And actually, Long Halloween has movies. It has two parts. They came out like a year or two ago. Those movies are actually good. So watch those. Don't watch Batman
Pretty good.
Hush. Don't watch Batman Hush, but
We watch Long
Read Hush.
Halloween.
Watch Long Halloween. They did a twist that changed the Long Halloween, so if you wanna watch, like, the original twist to see who the original culprit was, then maybe you wanna read it too, but, like, the Long Halloween is really good. And I also put, like, Selina's Big Score. That's made by Paul Dini. Is it Paul Dini? No, it's made by someone, but Selena's Big Score is basically it's like a blockbuster movie, but it's a comic book. And so it's Selena Kyle, like, going on like, this worldwide adventure, but she's never Catwoman in a book. She's always just Selena Kyle, and it's just, like, really good, and it's really fun to read. I feel like if you really wanna learn who Selena Kyle is as a character outside of Batman, that's a good book to read. And also Nightwing by Tom Taylor. That's the current Nightwing comic book run. It's really good. Just read it. I'm not giving any spoilers. I'm just gonna say it is good. It's fun. It actually also leans into Batgirl and the Titans and just the whole DC universe. It shows that Nightwing really is like the center of the DC universe. Nightwing is this amazing character, and he deserves his flowers. And this is one of the best comic books out there right now. And also, lastly, Batman the animated series. Go watch that.
Definitely.
If you call yourself a Batman fan, you have to watch Batman the Animated Series. You have to watch it. Like,
Oh yeah.
even if it's
Like
just a
that.
few episodes, that show is just so good. So many different storylines, so many different characters, so many different genres of stories that they try to tell. It's a dark show, but some episodes are really like funny and comedic. Some episodes are just like just mysteries. I don't know. I can't really think of that right now. But like, watch Batman the Anime Series. It's going on forever. Like, they're making a new Batman show as well that's based on that. It's a different universe though. So it's like the team of Batman the Animated Series plus some new blood coming together to make a new Batman show that's coming out sometime in the future. They say it's
I wish it would hurry up.
I wish it would hurry up because they had the Superman show that just came out, and the first season already finished with that, and they started working on those at the same time. That
I'm
Superman
only
show
like 2 episodes into the new Superman show.
yeah, it's a good show. I didn't finish it yet either because they were posting it on Max or whatever, but we got rid of that. And
Mhm.
so we didn't have cable anymore either because we moved into a new house. So we don't have cable anymore. So we just have streaming services or whatever. And we don't have Max, so I'm not watching it. So I'm just
Okay.
gonna have to go and watch it illegally. But Superman, the
Whatever
Superman
works.
show, whatever works. The Superman show is fun. And the Batman show, hopefully that comes out eventually. Any other honorable mentions or are you good?
I think if I had to do another honorable mention, I would probably throw in there the Batman from the '60s,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
it's so wildly different. But I think if you want to see Batman like throughout the years and like how he's changed over the years, I
Mhm.
would definitely say watch that
Mhm.
show. I know a lot of people would think that it's
Mhm.
like corny and like campy,
Mhm.
but I personally really loved the brighter colors and
Mhm.
simple storyline, like the corny gadgets and stuff. I enjoyed it, especially if you're a person who has like younger kids or younger siblings and you
Mhm.
want to get them into it without having to expose them to like
Mhm.
the violence and the dark and grittiness like Robert Pattinson's Batman,
Yeah.
but still want to introduce them to the character. I think would be a great way because it hooked me as a kid. And so being able to watch that version of Batman around like 1 o'clock in the day and then, at nighttime on JetX watch Batman the Animated Series, it was like,
Yeah.
okay, now I have this complete story of how this
Mhm.
character has developed through the years. It just goes with the times.
No, Batman see, that's the thing about Batman too. So, Batman is so popular that it's annoying that he's shoehorned into everything, but because he's shoehorned into everything, you have everything with Batman. So there's like literally no genre or place you can't find Batman in any media. So
Right.
you have, if you want a lighthearted Batman, go watch that, or watch like The Brave and the Bold, or they even have a show like for like little preschool toddlers that came out.
Hmm.
And so like you have no shortage of Batman stuff um, ever. And that's just go. So, while I have an honorable mention section, just search up Batman and pick whichever one you feel like looks the most interesting to you, honestly, because Batman's everywhere. Hopefully, Wonder Woman
Definitely.
gets there one day. Hopefully. I'm rooting for her.
Hopefully so.
Cause look,
It needs more shine.
I got this Wonder Woman thing right here, like for her 50th anniversary, right here with some of her best comic books, and I love it so much. Like, this is for her 50th anniversary in 2017 when the first Wonder Woman movie came out. It's just we need these storylines developed, and I know people hate Wonder Woman 1984. Have you ever seen that movie?
Yeah, I saw it. I didn't hate it. I thought it was okay. It
I
could have been better, but
Yeah.
I think, a lot of people just didn't give it a chance, honestly.
No. I liked it. It's
It
my
wasn't bad.
favorite. Yeah, it's my favorite out of the 2, it's my favorite Wonder Woman movie, and Wonder Woman, when it first came out, was my favorite movie. I liked it because it showed, like, the story was kinda iffy, right? And they had the weird thing with Steve Trevor going to another. That's why a lot of people really didn't like it. Steve Trevor going to another man's body. You should've just brought him back to life. I don't know why you decided to, like, they were trying to do, like, a Heaven Can Wait type of thing. If you ever seen Heaven Can Wait, it's like when the man goes into the other guy's body or whatever, and so they did it with Steve Trevor, and it's weird because that small little thing really didn't have any overall like a wide it didn't have any importance to the story, you know what I mean? So you coulda just brought him back to life, and so they ended up having relations. They had sex, and so it got weird because it turned into, like, this whole thing where did she, like, rape him or whatever? But that's a whole other thing. But Wonder Woman 1984 is just I love that movie so much because it showed because you have the warrior side of Wonder Woman. I hate the sword. I know people love that, but a lot of recent depictions of Wonder Woman with the sword and shield, she relies on that too much. It's pretty cool, but, like, when you rely on it too much as a character, when she has all these other iconic weapons, Lasso of Truth and stuff like that, you remove big aspects of her character. And the thing about Wonder Woman when she was created is that she was supposed to be the female equivalent to Superman, right? She was created to be just as powerful as Superman, but she handled everything differently. She handled everything with peace and stuff. So she knew how to fight, you know what I mean? She was trained to fight. She was just as powerful as Superman. Superman in like the golden age, the comic books will move planets. He'll throw stuff around, kick it around. She did the same thing. You can search up like panels where she would take the lasso and truth and just throw planets around and stuff. But she was meant to be like different, right?
Yeah.
Handle things with peace. She chose to do like that. And so when they just do the sword and the shield and just have her be like, "Ah," I was loud, why am I being, first into battle, killing people and stuff. You remove a vital aspect of Wonder Woman. And that's like the thing of Wonder Woman. You have the warrior side and you have the peacemaker side. And you need to put them together. You got to put them together in order to make her work as a character. You can't pick and choose. That's what I feel like. So when I write my Wonder Woman run for DC comic books in the future, DC, call me up. I'll do it like right now. No, I'll do it in the future because they just started Wonder Woman with like Tom King, and I'm gonna read that. I didn't read it yet, but he released his first issue. But like, anyways, shoehorn Wonder Woman into stuff. I went on a weird tangent. Just shoehorn Wonder Woman into random stuff is what I'm saying. If it's a Superman movie, put Wonder Woman in there. If it's like a Birds of Prey movie, put Wonder Woman in there. If it's like a, I don't know, I can't think of a Green Lantern show, just put Wonder Woman in there. Just shoehorn her and everything. Like you put Batman in everything, put Wonder Woman in everything because she deserves it. That's my piece on Wonder Woman. And I think that's everything Batman. I'm just gonna shut up now about Wonder Woman, but that's everything Batman. And Jared, before we like close off the episode, tell us where we can find you on like social media and everything that you're doing so far. What's going on with you?
My social media is JW_too smooth. I also have a podcast as well called Mancave, and the page for that is mancave.mp3 on YouTube and on Instagram.
Mhm.
That's pretty much all about me. I do a lot, but I don't do a lot. If they make sense.
Yeah.
Like I have a life, but I don't have a life at the same time.
Mhm.
Hey, if you ever want to hit me up and talk about Batman, you know where to find me.
God. And tell us a little bit about Man Cave too.
So Man Cave is a podcast. First off, the name is Man Cave, Escaping the Stigma, Building Men. That podcast is centered around the journey to manhood for young Black men across the world. Really just men from all walks of life, but we specifically speak to the Black male experience because we're Black. We speak to that.
Yeah.
Just empowering men in truth and in true masculinity and helping them understand mental health and their emotions, because unfortunately, a lot of men don't know how to deal with that stuff. They don't know how to properly assess their emotions and deal with their emotions. And they and just other pressing matters that just don't get talked about enough. We like to talk about things that are taboo to some. Like we've talked about porn, we've talked about trauma, we've talked about all kinds of stuff. We've talked about church hurt, like religion versus like relationship. We talk about romantic relationships, platonic relationships, just everything that you would need in your journey into manhood, because it takes a village, right? That's what they always say. It takes a village to raise a child. And for men, it takes a community. Men don't just know how to get up and lead. We have to first be led. So that's pretty much the space that we operate in. And I'm also a writer and a poet. So I belong to a writing group called Genesis, the Introduction to Creativity. And the IG tag for that is Genesis Poetry __.
You're an excellent writer, so yeah, I can see. I already knew you were into poetry and stuff, but yeah, it's really good. It's really good. And that was a nice, I'm not gonna lie, that was a nice crap. Not me forgetting my words when I was about to say something like, why do I have a podcast? That's the question. That's really the question here. But those are really good. I'll say a pitch for your podcast. Not pitch, introduction. Everybody go listen to the Man Cave. It's a good podcast. I listened to a few episodes. It's fun. You and Markeith, and you sometimes have guests on there too. And it's pretty cool to see y'all like talk about that stuff and things like dealing with stigma and stuff. Batman maybe could listen to it too. Maybe get a few pointers from y'all.
Maybe you might need a little therapy. So it can help.
You might need a little therapy. But yeah, it was great having you on a podcast. It was just like great catching up with you and talking about Batman. I don't really talk about comic books, well, as much with like other people that much. And it was pretty cool. I feel like, because I had Alyssa on here too, Alyssa Vessel. You guys go listen to I'm a Fan of Shoujo with Alyssa Vessel. That's like on a podcast. So go listen to it right now. Like turn this off and then go and listen to that and then turn this back on. But we talked about manga and stuff like that too. And that's really fun. Just like talking about comic books, manga, like all in that medium. It's just like really fun to talk about these creative fields that people really don't, that they used to have a stigma, a bigger stigma around these things. Just if you like read comic books, you were like a nerd, or if you enjoy like superheroes, you were just like a outcast and you're like a loser and you get beat up on a playground, wedgies or whatever.
Right.
But
and now everybody's trying to be a fan.
Now everybody's trying to be a fan. So it's really cool to just talk about this stuff and just have fun on this stuff. And it's great having you and catching up and just like Batman. Batman is cool. Everybody loves Batman. He's the one superhero. Him and Spider-Man are like the two superheroes who everybody thought was cool, even the non-nerds. It's pretty okay. But thanks for joining. I hope you had a good time.
I had a great time. You've known me for a long time, so you
I
know
know.
how close to my
Mhm.
heart Batman is.
Mhm.
And for a long time, especially in school, you were one of the few people I could always talk to about this kind of stuff. Because, like you said, people like to make it seem like it was lame or not cool or whatever.
Mhm.
But it just felt good to get back to my roots and just, like you said, sit here and have fun conversations about what we like and what we didn't like. And just catching up. I was honored to be here.
Oh, yeah, it was an honor having you. It's fun. I'm gonna bring you back. Jared, speaking of, like, the man cave or whatever, look, you were my first male guest. Wow. Like,
That's crazy. I did not know that.
that's crazy. You're my first male guest. I had, what, 13 episodes? It's a 14, 15? So, yeah, you're my first 13 episodes that came out. So you're my first male guest. I was like, I have to get men on here. Yeah, be honored because you know what? My sister makes fun of me not liking men, but, like, sometimes I'm like, but, so it's pretty cool having you on here. I might get, like, Marquise on here too. I'll get him on here. Ask him. I'll
Definitely
ask
should.
him to
He
come
would
on here.
be excited.
Mhm. So I'm trying to get more men to come on. I'm just like, I'm slowly moving towards that direction, but it's cool. But I'm gonna have you come on again one day. I don't know, cause I feel like we should talk, like, about the Batman or something, but I feel like I should bring you on to talk about X-Men or something, like, that's extremely different, like, really different. I don't know, but it is what it
I'm
is.
here for it.
Yeah. So, is your camera still on? Cause it's still frozen here, but it probably saved, like, a video. So if so, just, like, wave to the camera, tell everybody bye. Yeah,
If it works.
all right. Nice having you. So I'm about to stop the recording. Bye, everyone. See ya.
Thanks everyone for listening to the I'm a Fan of podcast.
Don't forget to support us by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and supporting our socials at IAFO Fans on Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit. Plus, our email, iafofans@gmail.com. You can use all these to send questions, suggestions, and even apply to be a guest.
Okay, Mr. Profession.
I know.
And if you didn't catch all of that, it'll be in the show notes.
Next episode will be an analysis of the Studio Ghibli movie, Ocean Waves. I hope you're excited.
Until then, we'll say.